All right, so going to get my hair cut in a few minutes, but they're open a bit later than I thought. So I thought we'd continue the development of the models for the charity auction app. So my 9-year-old Adam is playing Destiny right next to me. So if you hear, chit chat, Destiny related chit chat, that's where it's coming from. Okay, so a little bit of a reminder. So where we left off was that we're making a charity auction app. It's a real app. It's based on requirements that I reviewed in the first couple episodes from an email that I got with some attached documents. And right now we're going through the models. We're building them. So let me switch over to that quick. We'll just take a look at what to build next. All right, so all of the ones that are ready, we're ready to build. And again, if you want to see how we got here, you can go to the previous episodes. So last time we did the auction model. Let's see which ones we have to pick from now. So bid type and donation category are kind of like seeded models. Why don't we do those? Those are nice and simple here before I have my, before it's time for me to go to the haircut. All right, so create bid type. Now bid type, it's either 3 of them, live, silent, and teacup. And just have one attribute, string. Now we talked about why we're going to do this as a first class sort of active record model before. And maybe I'll mention as we're building it, but let's just get to it. Okay. So I'm going to switch to show my whole screen while I do this. Okay. So switch into my charity auction server app. Just make sure that I didn't leave with any busted tests. Okay, so here we go. We've got the test for auction. We'll get going. So I use Adam. Get right back to that. Okay, so here we go. We're going to add a bid type model. Pretty simple here how it should work. So let's run the generator. Now we're going to TDD it in general, but I run the generators first, at least when I'm not building from the sort of API documentation out. So bid type, name, string. Okay. So in this case, I'm going to go into the migration and set null to false on this, because we never can have a bid type with a null name. That's sort of its whole point. All right, now I'm going to go to the test or the spec and just put a couple of simple specs in, and then we'll put this seed data in. All right, bid type spec. Okay. So I mentioned last time, but I always add specs that just describe what the attributes are, or tests that describe what the attributes are, just so that you can look at the spec and see what the deal is. I'm going to say that this should validate the uniqueness of the name too, and then we'll go back and add a database index to force that as well. So it is expected to validate uniqueness of name. Now this is from shoulda matchers, both of these. Now we could just write them out and it'd be fine, but in this case we'll just use the shoulda matchers. It's nice and easy. So that failed. Validates name unique true. So that should pass, and then we'll also do presence true. And you don't have to go nuts with these sorts of tests. I mean, in part, I'm just showing the sort of how I would do it if I wanted to. But the tests are for your purpose. And if you didn't have some of these, it wouldn't be the end of the world, especially with the database constraints there. So, okay, that's there. And now we will go back and add that database, the index to the database. Add unique index to name for bid types. And this is a good rule of thumb. I mean, you probably know this, but in general, you want to add, make sure that the database is going to prevent any data that you've got a validation for that it could prevent easily. Now, again, you got to figure out how much it's worth it to do this, but in general, I found it really prevents some problems to get this right. All right. Okay, there we go. So everything's still working. That's good. So we've got our bid type. Now, if we're going to go back here, so we've set the name. Now, there are 3 that we're going to seed here. And this is the first time we've seeded something, so I'll show you how I do this. And there we could do it multiple ways. If I go to seeds.rb, so this is going to be run when I run bin setup or rake db setup or seed. So what I'm going to do is add a task, which is a seed rake task. And I just do this to sort of keep things straight. And again, I mean, we could do it other ways, and that's fine too. But task, and then this will be bid types. Okay. Now, for this example, I can just, I'll just do it in line. In general, I may load it off of a YAML file, but we can, let's not do overkill for this. I'll just say live, silent, and teacup. And then we will do bid type find or create by name. Now again, I think this is not the cleverest way. We'll see if we have something more interesting to seed later that we'll do something that's a little bit more interesting. But this is nice and straightforward, and we don't really have much else that's required at this point. Okay, so I think that we may want to have a test for this one. For now, I'm just going to quick test in my console about this. The reason is that sometimes when you're testing rake tasks, like the setup can get a little bit annoying, and I don't have database cleaner in to sort of vacuum out the tests, which I found can be an issue when you're testing rake tasks. So for now, I'm just going to take a look at my in the console after I've run bin setup and see if things look good in there. Because this is just done one time, literally, when the app is first created. So I'll do bid type all. We'll see it's empty. Now the reason is that in the seeds file, I didn't call that task. So I need to call seed bid type. And I don't like how that's named. Okay, good. It's bid types invoke. Okay. So now when I run bin setup, which will reset everything, let's see what it looks like. Now it's got everything. So that's what we'd expect. Now, if you wonder what this bin setup deal is, it's this script here. And if you want to change how it is that you can boot the, sort of bootstrap the app, you just modify this this script and you'll be good to go. But anyhow, okay, so we're good to go on that one. Again, I didn't TDD that seed task, and you could, and I generally actually would, but it's fine for now. All right, so we're going to add all of this. I think this is fine. Okay, add bid type model and seed. All right. So we push that up now. Like I always do, I forgot to mark this as closed in that commit. So I'm going to go back and take a look at that and then close out this issue. Now I wish that I was more consistent with GitHub and how I both named issues and related them to commits, etc. But you know, I'm not, so I'll try to do a decent job so that people can read through the commit history here. But that's good enough for now. Okay, so we've got that done. Now why don't we do that other seed category? And again, you know, I think that some people could think that building these as active record classes is a little bit of overkill, but that's okay. So these are donation categories. Now, from that auction donation form, this is where this idea came from. So I'm going to open that up. We'll take a look. So these were these categories down here. So this isn't exactly a seeded deal. I mean, maybe we'll seed some of them, but this is the sort of thing that actually someone would manage. So, you know, maybe we'll seed these just to get going and then, you know, build a UI later that we can actually work through. So let's do that. What do I call this? This is donation category. Okay. And these donation categories are attached to the donations themselves so that we can sort of classify them in the UI. All right. Okay, now I'm just going to add this index in right now this time instead of coming back to do it later since it's on my mind. Name unique true. Okay. So, yep, that seems right. Uh-oh. Oh, I said create index, it's add index. Okay. So now we'll just quick do this. Now, this is going to have a few of the same specs here. Now I'll probably extract this out into a shared example set in a little bit. You know, sometimes I wait until I've seen something maybe 3 times to do that. So for now, I don't think I need to. Again, I'm trying to avoid sort of prematurely refactoring, but this is an area that we'll come back to, I bet, later and end up doing that for. Okay. All right, so that'll be fine now. Cool. So I've got everything working, and now we're going to go to the seed. All right, so let's go back to that that file I had open, this guy. All right, so these were what we wanted to seed with. And then again, I think after we initially seed, we're going to allow the users to modify it. But yeah, let's seed this to begin with. So last time I just put the content for the seeding right in here. And this time let's do it a different way just for variety's sake. And what I'm going to do is in the database folder, sometimes I put another folder called seeds. And then I'll name this, I'll add one, which is donation categories. .yaml. Now, I am completely incapable of remembering what the syntax is for YAML ever, so I may have to refer to that. But all I'm going to do is let's see. I'm just going to have the list of them with the attribute in, one for each. And it feels like a little bit of overkill since we've only got one attribute, but I think it'll show a different way to do this, which is fine. Okay, so specialty services. Now let's just do this for one to make sure it works. Then I'll come back and add the rest. Task, donation, categories. Okay. What am I doing? Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to do YAML dot, is it load file? Again, I don't do this that often, so I'm going to have to look up what it is. So I think load file. Yep. All right. So this is in, let's see, it's in DB seeds donation categories.yaml. Each do, and these are the attributes. It's going to be a hash, so we can just pass it right into the finder create by, and then we'll say donation category finder create by attributes. All right, so that should be right if I got my YAML syntax right. Like see donation categories. And that looks right. Okay, good. So now, we can just edit this and put in the rest of the guys from this file. So this will only take a minute, so we'll do it now. Okay, so we've got vacation homes. Dinners. And again, is this the best way to do it? Do we even need to seed at all? I don't know, but this will show sort of a variety of ways to do things, and I think that's interesting. And I think you'll pick up for me that I have like relatively low stress about programming. So, if we end up thinking that we should do it a different way, which we will, and just do it everything, no big deal. We could always go and change it. I didn't realize I could actually copy those. That's funny. All right, let me just put that done. All right, so that's good. We're going to skip the other because maybe we'll come up with a clever way to do that later. And then, as I did before, I'm going to run bin setup and take a look, and it's not going to be there because we didn't put it into the seeds file. I'm just going to add that too. Okay. And again, you could add this a test for this, and I just didn't because I don't want to look up again how to get the database reset yet. We'll do that later. All right, good. So that's close enough to what we want. We're gonna go back here and just check. Added name. Those are all seeded. Okay. Okay, so this is going to be add donation category and seed. And I'm going to actually remember this time to say closes number 5. All right, so we'll go to GitHub. Now that's closed. Yay for us. All right. You can see I've got this sort of nervous tick of running bin_rspec all the time when I'm in between things. I think it's just to give myself a second to think through what to do next. All right, so now let's go through what else we've got. So payment we've punted on. I'm going to filter just to the ready stuff. Donations, the bigger guy. It's got 14 attributes to add. Auction admin, let's take a look at that. So that's the relationship between an auction, a user, and then whether or not the user is the chair of the auction. I actually don't buy this whole only one share per auction. That seems like I'm overdoing it there. So I'm just going to take that away. And then we've got user. This sort of feels like we should add user next because we've got this guy joins auction user, so we're going to need that. And then bid. Yeah, bid will come later. And then donation, I think, has a relationship to user, this guy right here. So we're going to do user, and then I'm going to go get my haircut. Okay, so here we go. So there's really nothing to this one. Now, we're not going to handle things related to login just yet. I want to have a separate episode related to that. So for now, user is just going to be a regular old model, just like the rest of them. And then later we'll add some capabilities for logging in. And I think that's good anyways. You want to see user just as just another class, not some sort of God class that can do all sorts of things. Okay, so let's add this. So you've noticed I haven't been making feature branches, and I should. Maybe I will on this one just to show you how to do that workflow better in GitHub. And I'll do that. So I've been just on the master branch, so I'll do git checkout, and then we'll call this user. So that'll put me on to. Oh, I just noticed something too. See in this spec examples, so that means that I did not exclude examples from git ignore, which is ugly. So I'm going to go fix that before I forget. Now spec/examples.txt, that I mentioned it before, but that's this, which is the list of what the status was on all of the examples that were run, and it's used by our spec 3.3 or whatever, wherever they introduced it. I think it's 3.3 and beyond. Great feature, but I don't need that in my repository, so I'm going to add this change to git ignore and commit it. Oh, wait a second here. That is not what I wanted to do. Yeah, that's fine. So I'm going to add, even though it's in this branch, that's fine. Add and commit. All right, so add spec examples text git. All right, so we've added that. So let's go back to what we were doing. So we checked out this user branch. I'm just going to add a model that has these guys, which we extracted again out of the email and the documents that we received. So we've got name, string, mobile phone number, which is a string 2, email address. Now you'll notice I call things like mobile phone number and email address. This is the same reason I say like, bid dollars, or I try to be explicit about what it is, because an email could be a model unto itself. I mean, I suppose address could too, but my habit is to try to be a little bit more descriptive in the name of the attribute to make it clear what the sort of unit is of it. Okay. I said text here, but I think I can just go string for physical addresses too, as well. Okay, so this one is we're gonna need a name. Well, let's think through that. Do we always need a name? I think so. Do we always need a mobile phone number? Boy, I'm going to say no for now. We may come back to this later. You know, I'm going to say we need an email address because I think we're going to enable login by email. But it's a good question, right? I mean, mobile phone number, I'd be tempted to make this required, but I'm not going to for now. And then, you know what? I'm going to. Because this is a charity auction website and I don't want to deal with a million special cases, I'm going to say that we can force mobile phone number, email address, and physical address because that'll avoid us having to deal with if someone doesn't have those. I'm going to take, yeah, I'm going to do that. And, you know, maybe I'll regret that and take it away later, but it's easier to take away these sorts of constraints and then the associated validations than it is to add them. So I'll do that. And again, I'm pretty low stress about this, and it's not a big deal if we have to change it. All right, now I'm going to add a couple things. So add index. So one is I'm going to say that the email address has to be unique so that a user can only register once with an email address. It's going to avoid some hassles later. I'm going to say the same on mobile phone. Again, that's one that I may regret, but I think it's easier to go backwards on this. Name, we can have the same. Okay, so all right, so let's go into the spec and we'll just quick add what we need to for here. And we'll be good with this one too. And then it's time for me to get a haircut. Okay, so what did we have? So we've got name, and we validated the presence of all 4 of these. So, you know, given that they're all the same, I actually am yeah, I'm going to make things a little bit more concise for us. Okay. And I'll call this like required attribute. And then we'll say that for each of these, it should be present. There should be a validation that it's present. Yeah. Now, you obviously don't need this. That's just sort of to match what I had done before, but it's fine if you didn't have it. And then this is going to be validate presence of required attribute. Okay, so all 4 of those fail. Now you saw I was going to use that same array here, but I'm not going to because some of them are going to have other validations on them, and I think it's easier not to. I think I'm going to prefer just to explicitly list them out. I tend to regret if I don't do it that way. So, whereas on the spec side, those are safe because, you know, if we've got other validations that are going to go elsewhere, I think it's fine to just put them in a different set of the spec or a different area of the spec. Okay. So here we go. So those are all fine. And then let's see what else we had to do. So we've got uniqueness on mobile phone number and email address. So let's add that. All right. Let's see, so this is unique attribute. All right, so these are 2, and let's remind ourselves which one. So it was mobile phone number and email. So null value in column name violates not null constraint. Oh, I see. Okay, so this is good. So this is because the way that shoulda matchers does this one, it is only setting sort of this attribute and then testing with that, but you can't in the database save a user with a null name. So we're going to change our approach. We're going to go over to our factory, and we'll add a factory here. So this will be, let's make one for me. 888-555-1212. One, two, three, Main Street. Okay. All right, so I've got that in now. And this time what I'm going to do is just sort of manually write this. And again, I would more often do this. I don't always use shoulda matchers for this sort of thing, kind of for this reason, but it's good to see sort of what the limitations of this matcher are. So what I'll do now is I'll say subject equals factory girl dot create user. And I'm just going to run this to make sure that that's working. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Yeah, hold on, everyone. Yes, Adam, we're going to open your birthday presents sometime. Once your brother gets here. But I'm currently recording this. All right. All right. So it validates the uniqueness of unique attribute. Okay. Now you saw that error that popped up there. Let's talk about why that was. So it says mobile phone number has already been taken, email has already been taken. So we need to modify our factory for users so that it increments this. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do sequence mobile phone number. And then I'll describe what this is in a second. So what this does is says, okay, this one we're going to need to increment every time we build a new one. And n is the increment, incrementing, and then this says what attribute it is. And I think I've got the syntax on this right, and if I don't, I'll just change it later. But or I'll Google it, but I think this is right. Okay, so now I can say like test dash n at test.com. Okay. Let's run that again and see what happens. So this says validation failed. Mobile phone number has already been taken. Why is that? What? Let's drop into the okay. Now you can see here that that is incrementing it correctly, right there, and there, and there. That looks right to me. So let's figure out what's going on here. Now this says validation failed. Mobile phone number has already been taken. And that's on this guy, which you can see is clearly different than this. So what this feels like is, to me, is there's some data in the database that we don't want there. So this is, We're going to talk about some different ways to address that, maybe in a different episode, but let's just see if that's what it was here. I'll rerun this. No, it's not. So what is the problem here? What is the problem? Well, let's drop down. So I have no idea what this is. So let's figure it out. This is, I guess this is part of the point, is to work through things like this. So it validates the uniqueness of mobile phone number. All right. So we've built the user. Actually, we're going to create one first, right? So I'll say create. Now, and I'll call this the original. Now I'll create a new one, right? So, and I'll call this duplicate. And I'll say factory_girl.build user, and then mobile phone number is going to be the original's mobile phone number. All right. Now duplicate.valid. And then if we test the errors on the duplicate for the mobile phone number, to include must be, or has already been taken, I think. And maybe I got that wrong, but that's fine. Okay, so that looks right. Let's try this on another one. Email address is the other one. We'll just, again, this is sort of a sign, given my copy and pasting, that we can extract this, but yeah, we'll wait till we see it a couple more times, and maybe we'll put a matcher in to do this. All right. Well, I don't know if that's good news or bad news that now sort of this looks fine when I just did those individually or not. You know, I suppose I could quickly let's do it this way. So let's just see if now I write this again. If it turns out okay, and if it doesn't, then I got to go get my haircut. So maybe we'll just punt on that for now. Okay. We could have done that. We could also do this too. Probably a little prettier. All right. And I see that same problem again. Mobile phone number has already been taken. Huh. Well, I'm not quite sure, and for now I'm going to just move on because I want to get my hair cut, and I don't see why that would be a problem, but whatever. We'll see if it pops up later. I think if anything, it's going to, prevent some things from saving, and then we'll clearly see that as we build out the app and test more. I don't think there's actually a problem, but we'll see. All right. So let's go back to our list and see where we are. So we've added, these are all, we made these required. We may end up taking that away, but it's easier than adding it. We have the validations. Yeah, I mean, there isn't really much to this class, so it probably should take me about 3 minutes to do, but I think that's probably about it. Just make sure everything's looking fine, and we'll add this and close it, and I'm going to get my haircut. Okay, so add user model. So you see those descriptions sort of in my little commit message template. Once we get into actual features, we're really programming more than just doing this sort of basic bootstrapping of the app. Then I'll be more explicit, but this is pretty clear, especially when it references the issue. Oh, interesting. So you saw this didn't close in. It's because we used a feature branch. So if I go back here, we'll see that I've got a push branch on user that's ready for a pull request. So good, I'll take a look at that. So that I can see I've got those 2 commits, nice and nothing to it really. Oh, interesting. So you see we still have spec examples.txt in here. So before I merge this in, I'm going to remove that. So now take a look at this. We should have that new one. That's gone. All right, good. That all looks fine. Now, when I merge that in, it's going to close that issue. So now we only have those 4. And you'll notice, so see this avoid bugs by automatically running your test. You see we don't have a CI server running yet. We'll add that once we're through the initial models. I just wanted to sort of get into the code. But I'll set that up in a little bit so we can see how that feels with the app. And yeah, I'm going to try to sort of slowly introduce those sort of more production real app kind of workflow items, but that one's coming soon. Okay, so I think we've got these 4 issues left on the model side. It should take us maybe half an hour or so to make those maybe a little bit more for the donation, and then we'll be ready to start building out the app more. So check we're all green, which we are. I'm going to switch back to me. Well, there we go. So I'm not sure how long that took, maybe about 40 minutes. Yeah, this is going slow, I know that, but hopefully we'll pick up all these sort of little things along the way, and at least we'll have a sort of comprehensive narrated version of this whole experience. So anyways, see you. You want to say hi?
Hi.
You ready for me to be done? All right. How's your Destiny game going?
Good.
Good. You want to go get your haircut? No. All right. Say see ya.
Bye.
All right. Till next time.